Hey Lions fans, out of nowhere, a game that should have kept the season alive turned into a huge pressure on Dan Campbell. There's also an unexpected twist coming from the draft that could completely change the direction of the team. And on top of that, new rumors have surfaced about which coaches will actually stay, while the coaching staff faces real changes and the names mentioned will surprise you. A lot has just happened, and the first piece of news is already causing a stir. The Lions walked into Christmas needing one thing: beat a Vikings team running on duct tape and prayers. Instead, Detroit delivered one of the most confusing performances of their entire season, and the heat on Dan Campbell is officially back in full force. Remember last year? The Lions were the bullies of the NFC. Top seed, a 15-2 season, everyone talking about how the culture had finally turned. But the moment both coordinators walked out the door, everything slipped. And to make the story even louder, Ben Johnson, yeah, that Ben Johnson is now out in Chicago putting the Bears right in the playoff conversation during his first season. That contrast alone has fans losing their minds. Campbell isn't exactly on the hot seat, but let's be honest, people are getting restless. He took over play calling back in early November to try and fix the offense, but instead of stabilizing, the team has crashed hard. 3 straight losses, sitting at 8-8 and officially eliminated for the first time since 2022. That's not the script anyone expected. And the national reaction? Brutal. USA Today Sports basically labeled the Lions as losers of the Christmas slate. Nate Davis didn't hold back, pointing out the 6 turnovers. 6. The first time Detroit has done that in a decade. Davis said it himself. All they had to do was beat a limited Vikings offense and a third-string quarterback in Max Brusmer, but instead Detroit came up small in their biggest game of the year. Then came the jab at Jared Goff. Davis called it probably the most disappointing outing of Goff's Lions career, especially with playoff hopes on the line. And honestly, it's hard to argue. Goff looked rattled all afternoon, and the offense never found any kind of rhythm. The worst part? Detroit's fall perfectly matches the offseason fears everyone ignored. People wondered if losing Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn would wreck the machine. And right now, it sure looks like it did. The team that once felt unstoppable has turned into a version of itself that can't control the ball, can't finish games, and can't beat a team missing half its starters. Let's be real, surrendering your playoff chances to a Vikings squad running a third-string QB is about as ugly as it gets. That's the kind of loss that leaves a mark, not just on Campbell, not just on Goff, but on the whole franchise. Whether this was a bad stretch, a leadership issue, or a deeper roster problem, that's the debate happening across Detroit today, and the noise isn't slowing down anytime soon. And while all that noise is hitting the fan, another update just dropped, one that could reshape how the Lions build this roster moving forward. With one game left on the schedule and no playoff shot in sight, the Lions have officially entered look to the offseason mode. Sitting at 8-8, this team knows exactly what the conversation is going to be for the next few months. Fixing the roster, adding depth, and getting back to the version of Detroit that actually scared people. And the first big topic, the draft. Because Brad Holmes has some real work ahead of him. Holmes has been money in several drafts, finding 8 Pro Bowl or All-Pro players since he got here. But the last 2 draft classes, they haven't hit the same way. Not yet anyway. Injuries hammered that group. Only Sione Vaki from the 2024 class has played more than 25 games in 2 years, and the 2025 class hasn't produced a standout either. Some guys stayed healthy, some barely saw the field, and others didn't survive training camp. And now Detroit heads into 2026, needing real contributors. Another edge to partner with Aiden Hutchinson is a popular pick among fans, and an offensive lineman is almost guaranteed to be on the radar after how rough things got this year. The line fell apart in 2025, and the offense paid the price. The tricky part? Detroit already traded away both of its 3rd rounders for 2026, including the compensatory pick they earned for Aaron Glenn getting hired by the Jets. They packaged those picks to move up for wide receiver Isaac Taslea. So Holmes isn't working with a full toolbox heading into this draft, but there is some good news. Looks like Detroit is set to earn a compensatory pick in the 4th round. Over the Cap currently projects that the Lions will receive a 4th-round comp pick for losing cornerback Carlton Davis. The compensatory formula weighs the contract, snaps, and performance of free agents lost versus free agents gained. In Detroit's case, they lost 3 qualifying free agents, Davis, Ifeatu Melifonwu, and Kevin Zeitler, and signed 2 qualifying players in DJ Reed and Roy Lopez. Because Davis ranks low enough in OTC's system, the Lions are slotted to get that 4th-rounder back. There's also the possibility of additional comp picks down the line if a minority executive or assistant coach from Detroit lands a head coach or GM job elsewhere. The league rewards teams for that, and the Lions have some rising names on staff, so the picture is pretty simple. The Lions don't have a ton of early capital, but they do have a chance to stock the middle rounds, and Brad Holmes has shown he can find talent there. The question now is whether those picks will be enough to help Detroit bounce back fast, because this roster needs fresh firepower ASAP. And if that draft update already shifts the whole outlook for next season, the next story hits even closer to the locker room. A fresh report about who's actually safe on this coaching staff. With the season effectively wrapped, Dan Campbell didn't sugarcoat anything after the Christmas meltdown. He hinted, loudly, that changes are coming, and whenever a head coach says that, every assistant in the building starts wondering who's packing boxes. But according to the latest reports, a handful of coaches look almost guaranteed to stay. First up, Hank Fraley, the offensive line coach. Yeah, the O-line looked rough this year, but let's be real. Fraley was coaching third stringers, guys playing hurt, and players who probably shouldn't have been taking full workloads. Detroit is headed for a major reset in the trenches this offseason, and you don't rebuild a line without keeping one of the best O-line coaches in the league. Fraley is safe. Next on the list, Tashard Choice, the running backs coach. Jahmyr Gibbs was electric for most of the season. The kid was a highlight machine until the line collapsed. Some fans complained about David Montgomery's carries dropping, but it wasn't a coaching issue. Detroit wasn't playing with big leads like last year, so the game script changed. Choice did a strong job, and he's not going anywhere. Then you've got Scotty Montgomery, receivers coach and assistant head coach. Two 1,000-yard receivers speak for themselves. Isaac Taslaya developed nicely, even with limited snaps. Montgomery has been a respected voice on this staff for years, and there's no sign Campbell wants to lose him now. Quarterbacks coach Mark Brunell is absolutely safe. This guy helped rebuild Jared Goff's career, straight up. And with Detroit preparing for the quarterback of the future at some point, Brunell's value goes through the roof. Campbell isn't letting him walk, and finally, Sean Dion Hamilton, the linebackers coach. Detroit sees him as a rising star, someone who could legitimately be a defensive coordinator in the near future and maybe even a head coach someday. You don't let that kind of talent slip away. In the end, the Lions are stuck in a crossroads, criticism piling up, draft questions everywhere, and a staff that might look different soon. What would you change first if you were running this team? Hit subscribe so you don't miss what happens next.